Geordie Journo's back here at St James's Park, talking about another late defeat for Newcastle United. It's a second late defeat in 3 Premier League games at St James's Park this season. 2-1 against Arsenal. Newcastle leading through a great Nick Voltemata header up until the 84th minute. Mikel Merino pulls back an equaliser for Arsenal, another header, and then in the 96th minute, Gabriel pops up with another header to win it for Arsenal. What are your thoughts on that, Jordan? Well, actually, you said off camera you're not happy and you're quite angry at that defeat. So how do you verbalise that in a Geordie Journo?
Yeah, angry, frustrated because Newcastle got themselves in a position leading 1-0 where they should have really taken something from that game. They shouldn't have lost that game, and to lose that game right at the death is it's not really acceptable, to be honest. I'd say they put themselves in a really good position to take something from the game, and for them to not do that, really disappointing, because we've all spoke about sort of the goal troubles they've had this season. We spoke after Bournemouth and said they were going through a transitional period, which I still believe that is the case, but it's got to the point now where it's essentially costing them points. It's been a poor start of the season. Again, I know there's mitigating circumstances and that, but you find yourselves now 6 games in, 6 points, worst attacking record in the Premier League on most merits. Defensively, I imagine the 2 goals they might have hit them up a little bit, but they had been relatively defensively solid, but undone by Arsenal's bread and butter, balls into the box.
Something they've historically been very good at dealing with.
Yeah. And
they were for the majority of the game today.
I just think, as I say, getting yourself in front, and then, because that was the thing, there was an inevitability about Arsenal. It was the start of the game when it was pressure after pressure. Nick Pope kept them in the game. Newcastle get themselves in front. It sort of settled down, but Arsenal there as a threat, and you had half time to sort of sort it out. And what happened straight after the second half? Arsenal on the front foot again. And it was when Eddie Howe tried to change it and go to the 5 back, and they were dealt a setback on with Tino Livramento, which we'll come on to. But even then, you're looking at your back line, you've got Dan Burn, Sven Botman, Jamal Lascelles. I know Joe Luton came up, but he was there majority of the game. You've got some big players in there, and they weren't done by two headers, 2 crosses into the box, which is basics really. But that's what Arsenal are really good at. As I say, to get yourself in front and not take anything, I just think it's very, very disappointing, and I think they'll look back at this one as with a bit of regret not to take something.
Yeah, I think there's fine margins between a good team and a great team, and Newcastle all too often find themselves the wrong side of those fine margins. We saw against Liverpool where I think they played much better, considerably better than they played today, but again still came undone with a last minute stoppage time goal, and it's happened again. And how many times have Newcastle grabbed games and won them in stoppage time late on? Too few and far between for me, and they're conceding too many late goals historically over this season so far, and then going on to last season as well. So yeah, I think it's very disappointing, and obviously just 2 of us today. Liam Kennedy was at the game. He did have to shoot off. Me and Jordan taking too long with our work. So yeah, Liam asked him for his verdict before he shot off, and he said it's very frustrating. Newcastle are just becoming nearly men, and they need to start actually finding that nous and those ways to win games. And I think another point Liam made, which I agree with, it's an argument like, at what point does Nick Pope's excellent shot stopping ability, almost his lack of distribution or quality distribution, overshadow his shot stopping ability? And I think today we saw that, because Nick Pope was excellent. I had him as almost a guaranteed 9 out of 10 with 5 minutes to go. He kept Newcastle in the game. He gave them a platform to take the lead, but then couldn't do much about Merino's header. But his rushed clearance, or trying to get the ball up the pitch in stoppage time, ultimately goes straight to Arsenal, puts Arsenal on the attack, and then the score from the resulting corner. How many times did it put Newcastle on the back foot today, Nick Pope's distribution? It sounds harsh, because he did have, generally, in terms of shot stopping, a great game. But then the resulting corner that he's basically, his kick has led to Newcastle conceded, comes out and doesn't really get anywhere near. So it's sort of the story of a goalkeeper, if you like.
You can look at Nick Pope's distribution, and Nick Pope at the end of the game actually cost them in the end, because it was, and I see why he was trying to release Langer quick. but it was a rush of blood. Arsenal cut it out, then goes to the corner. Nick Pope comes out for the corner, ball gets stuck between 3 or 4 bodies. Gabriel heads it in. But I think overall, when Nick Pope's distribution, they know he's not very good at that. That's not his game, and that's when you need a bit more up top. And Nick Pope's lobbing balls up top, and it's just keep coming back.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily on Nick Pope. Again, it's a criticism of his game. We know he's not very good at that. But it goes back to the attacking third, and that's one thing. It was endless amount of pressure from Arsenal today, and several spells that game. It's because Newcastle aren't functioning in the final third. And again, we'll go back to what we said after Bournemouth about the transition and trying to play a different way with Nick Faltermeyer. He's a player that is literally sort of feeding off scraps.
Yeah.
And has scored 2 goals in 2 St James Park games, but it's about trying to get players around him, because he's not the striker that's going to run him behind, and that's what they used to, and they're not quite finding a way to get him in the game.
Yeah.
More, to be fair, I thought it was a tough one from the day. He scored and come against 2 very physical centre halves, but it's that attacking third where when it doesn't function there, and you've got your midfielders and defenders constantly under pressure, it eventually toes. And I think the only surprise for me today is that Arsenal didn't score earlier, and I've got to be honest, Arsenal deserved to win that game in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just the manner of the defeat that is obviously frustrating. And Nick Faltermeyer, you touched on him there. I think he's done very well to score 2 goals. He's had 2 shots on target in 5 games and scored each shot on target, which is fair play. That's German efficiency for you, but it could have quite easily been a no goals from Newcastle today. It's a very frustrating spell in front of goal. I mean, they had a half chance at the start of the second half, which was offside.
Offside, which Faltermeyer.
Yeah.
So we can't put that as a goal on his. Not a goal, a shot on his.
No, it hit the bar anyway, so it technically wasn't on target. But yeah, it was just one of those. That's the last real opening Newcastle got. Really, I think Willisula, Anthony Elanga came on and tried to offer some pace and threat on the break. It never really came off, but maybe the handball penalty shout at the end, which I suppose is something we can get onto, because the tone was set early on. I thought the referee today, Javid Gillett, was poor for both teams. I think the early penalty shout that was given initially, Victor Gyökeres brought down by Nick Pope inside the box, referee points straight to the penalty spot. Then a lengthy VAR check overturns the decision. What were your thoughts on that? Yeah,
so I'll be honest, it took a couple of watches for me. So I thought when it happened first, I thought it was a penalty. Probably watched it 3 times after, and I was like, "Oh, they're looking at it's definitely a penalty." But to be fair, we're talking about sort of referee VAR controversy. VAR was spot on. They got spot on to refer the referee to that, because you could see it was the faintest of touches, but Nick Pope did get a touch on the ball. Yeah. Which, I thought they reached the right decision on that.
They did, but it goes back to the re-refereeing of games and the clear and obvious errors. I think the referee pointing to the spot, you watch that in real time, you watch the replay a few times, and you still think it's a penalty. If you have to forensically analyse to the point of did that touch Nick Pope's foot and how it touched Nick Pope's foot before he made contact with the player, if I'm an Arsenal fan or an Arsenal journalist, or if something like that happened to Newcastle, I'd be saying in this video, very frustrated.
It's very
it's the right decision. I just think it is the re-refereeing of games, and is it a clear and obvious error? Not necessarily for me.
Who knows what VAR is, and who knows what the rules are, and that takes one to the penalty at the end, where the Anthony Elanga appeal hits the arm of Gabriel. Apparently it took a nick before it hit Gabriel, but for me, you're talking about your arm. I don't know the rules, but my interpretation of handball rules about your arm being in a natural or unnatural position. Gabriel is sliding on the floor. His arm's up here. That is not a natural position. And for me, as I interpret the rules, is a penalty. Now, I know people watching on Sky would probably been given an explanation. I haven't been privy to that yet. But from watching that, from what I'd thought the rules were, I thought it was a penalty. Yeah. Who slides with the arm up in the air like that?
Exactly, yeah.
But whatever the rules are, I don't know. I'll check after this video, of course.
But I think the problem is no one really knows what the rules are. Eddie Howe has said before, he didn't say today, but he doesn't really know the handball rule, and that's not a slight on Eddie Howe. I just think the consistency of the way the rules are applied regarding handballs, Newcastle being victim of it in the past. You go back to the PSG game, which was given as a penalty, and today's handball was far more blatant than Tino Livramento's, where it hits off his body and hits off his arm, which is in a natural position, or more or less natural. This, you're waving your arm like up in the air basically while you're sliding, hits bang off it, stops the cross coming in the box. Oh yeah, fair block. Not for me. I think both should have been penalties and neither were. Even though I do agree the correct decision was reached, particularly with the first one.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying about it. It's a re-referee and it goes back like VR. They say about clear and obvious. It's not. It has not about clear and obvious now. It's literally there to check every single decision, and that's why everyone gets frustrated with VR, because the lack of consistency or decisions as well.
Yeah.
But look, the two penalty decisions there, they weren't the reason why Newcastle lost today. Just a real frustration, a lack of finishing, and then that needs to be addressed.
It wasn't even a lack of finishing though.
Well,
it was
a lack of creation.
Yeah. A lack of getting in the position.
Honestly, the gap between the midfield and sort of the attack it's just quite jarring watching it. It's costing them, because Newcastle get themselves 1-0 up. Newcastle probably last season with a functioning attack that they had would probably go and score a second, but they never looked like doing that. As I say, the cross at the start of the first half, that was then judged offside anyway, and it was. I can't thinking back now. I remember too many chances off the top of my head from Newcastle.
There's very few, very few.
And when you can't create chances, and your defenders are having to constantly defend, your goalkeepers having to face pressure after pressure, it eventually tells them, look, there's mistakes in that back line. I think Sven Botman will be disappointed to be beaten in the air. Nick Pope for that distribution that he had when he cleared the ball straight at an Arsenal player and led to the corner. The ball got stuck in between three defenders and the goalkeeper. So there's individual mistakes in there, in it, but it just pressure told in the end. And as I say, the way Newcastle lost was devastating, and it was a horrible feeling. But when you reflect back on the game as a whole, did Arsenal deserve to win it? Pains us to say, but yeah, I think they did.
Yeah, there was an inevitability to the game today. You felt when 8 minutes of stoppage time went up, I think everyone sort of cheered, Arsenal fans and Newcastle fans, because they went, we can go and grab a winner here. For Newcastle, they created nothing in the second half, really. So to have the feeling of going on to grab a winner, I'm not quite sure. So, and then inevitably, Arsenal were the ones to do it. And it was a gutting defeat for Newcastle, very disappointing, the manner of it, but almost compiled the defeat was Tino Livramento's injury, which did not look good at all.
No, and obviously your initial reaction to that is Eddie Howe confirmed after, he said he thinks it's a knee issue. And obviously you look, it doesn't, I'm pointing out the obvious here, but obviously Tino Livramento a few years ago spent a year out on the ACL injury, so when your player's got a history of knee injuries, you sort of go to that place. I really hope it isn't that, because that would be a huge blow.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that was just like a massive blow. I mean, I don't think he had his best game today, but that's not the time to say that. How he's filled at left back, he's been excellent. Would miss him hugely if he was to be ruled out for a lengthy amount of time. The player as well, who just broke into the England setup. It looks and sounds like a bad one, but fingers crossed it isn't.
Yeah, you see Tino Livramento's reaction, having suffered a bad knee injury before, and he looked visibly distraught. Yeah. Like, really quite upset by it. And I think maybe he's fearing the worst. Maybe he's just like, I have suffered one before. Or is it a reaction of someone who knows he's done something? He goes, that feels the same.
Yeah, you hope it's the
We're speculating, but Eddie Howe saying it's not looked good. Tino Livramento's clearly not feeling happy about it at all, so yeah, we'll wait and see. Fingers crossed, and all the best, Tino. I hope it's not as bad as it looked.
Yeah, I just think in terms of the game, that probably impacted Newcastle a little bit, because they'd not long switched to a back five. Livramento was a left wing back, Kieran Trippier coming on as a right back, and obviously the three centre halves with Dan Burn, which in my opinion I think Eddie Howe should have started with a back five. I thought that's what he would have done. Was that the reason why Newcastle lost there, because Eddie Howe started with a back five? I wouldn't, back four, I wouldn't say so. But I was surprised to see Dan Burn back out at left back. But yeah, going back, as I say, when they moved to the back five, it was like trying to gain a little bit of control in the game. And then having moved Dan Burn back in the centre half, he then goes back into left, he goes out at left wing back, which there's question marks over left back, never mind left wing back. Of course he brings that height, but I just think it disrupted Newcastle a little bit when they tried to gain a little bit of a foothold. didn't happen. Arsenal pressure continued, and the 2 goals came in the final 10 minutes.
Yeah, very disappointing. I can see why Eddie Howe started Dan Burn because of the height thing, but he almost didn't want to tear up that defensive partnership. Which
it was a big decision that he didn't make it. Didn't make the decision. And I get it, because Dan Burn doesn't deserve not to be in the team. He deserves to be in the team. But if you're gonna play a defensive 2, I think based on what I've seen from Malik Chow and Sven Botman, which based on today as well, actually, apart from Botman's little lapse of concentration, them 2 defenders give you the sort of that ability to play out from the back. And Malik Chow, I thought, even though ending defeat today and conceding 2 goals, I thought he was excellent again.
He was very good.
Just a proper cool and composed, classy centre half. And Sven Botman has similar attributes. So when you're going to play with a back 4, this hasn't been fit towards Dan Burn, because I think he still deserves to play. But beyond a back 4, I think he's centre back 2. And then that's what Eddie Howe done, and he didn't want to drop Dan Burn, put him out at left back. But that Dan Burn, for as much as we love him, isn't a left back.
No.
That experiment ended 18 months ago.
Yeah.
But he put him out there. I don't like seeing Dan Burn out there. Hopefully that's the end of that. But potentially, if Howe wants to play back 4 and doesn't want to drop Dan Burn, then where does Dan Burn fit in?
Exactly. Yeah, and it came about that today by resting Lewis Hall, which is what it sounded like. Lewis Hall was rested for today's game. He started at Bournemouth, started against Bradford. His first 2 starts since February in the space of 4 days. Then you and me were watching the players arrive, and we went, "There's no Lewis Hall. This isn't good."
Yeah.
So we put that story out before the game, and the team news then inevitably landed without Lewis Hall. And I did a story on the Shields Gazette saying Newcastle expect him back for the Champions League game in midweek, just managing his load, managing his minutes, and Eddie Howe confirmed that to you after the game.
Yeah, fatigue, he said.
We've got 5 minutes. That's a 5-minute warning from the club staff. He's right. You're just saying.
Eddie Howe said he had fatigue in his body from playing the 2 games in 4 days. The area of that is probably going to have to play 2 games in 4 days again. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. 5 days. So, he confirmed that Lewis Hall will be back on Wednesday, and I imagine that'll mean he probably starts.
Yeah, hopefully Fabian Schär back too.
Yes,
was back in training on Friday, which sort of led to a bit of speculation. Could he come back? Because there's Premier League protocols 12 days, but as you've pointed out, it's 7 days in exceptional circumstances. If his symptoms sort of disappear, which obviously they have if he's training, then he can come back sooner, but not the case today. Should travel to Belgium for Wednesday's game.
Yeah, big week coming up, a massive week, because again there's been mitigating circumstances to Newcastle's start of the season. The summer was disruptive, the Isaac situation, bringing Baltimore in, trying to find a way of adapting with him and the team. So there's mitigating circumstances, but the league table, if you look at now, doesn't look very good. 6 games into the season, you're 16th in the Premier League with 6 points. You've not scored many goals. It's a big week, and it needs to start with a win in Belgium to get the Champions League campaign kick-started, and they need a win against Nottingham Forest on Sunday to get the Premiership season. The Premiership?
Ooh.
Yeah, that's old. Premier League season started, so I think this week they need back-to-back wins.
Definitely. They absolutely do, because
heading into national break as well.
Yeah, exactly. Nottingham Forest tends to be a game where Newcastle historically turn up for and get the win. Bar that one time on Boxing Day, yeah. But when Newcastle need a win most and they come up against Forest, they tend to get the job done. But Forest down there as well, they're struggling. Tough start to the season.
Nearly relegation 6-pointer.
Maybe, yeah.
And then see that tongue in cheek.
And then the midweek Champions League game. These are the ones you have to win if you want to get out the big group. So, I think to only be in September and have lost 3 home games already this season, albeit to very, very good sides. But Newcastle, this sort of St James's Park fortress,
that's what I was going to say.
It's crumbling a little bit. But
yeah, it is. I mean, I spoke about it before the Barcelona game. I said, Barcelona, I find it hard to match energy here. It's always a big night.
Yeah.
A big game when the likes of Arsenal and Liverpool and Barcelona came. But what's the common theme of that? They've lost all three.
Yeah. There've been close games, close defeats. You're not getting battered, but still losing. And I think that's what goes back to my initial point, the fine margins between a good team like Newcastle and great teams like Liverpool, Arsenal to a degree, Barcelona certainly.
You can never fault the effort of this team, and that effort was there today against Arsenal. But it's about that cutting edge, and that's one thing that is concerning based on what we've seen so far this season. That's one thing that has to be addressed, because you can work hard and it can only get you, and it gets you so far. But if you don't have that cutting edge, you're going to struggle. So that needs to be addressed. But I'm just stating the obvious there.
Yeah.
Eddie Howe knows that. Sure, they'll be working to do that. Hope fingers crossed it happens sooner rather than later, because
it's putting a lot of pressure on Johan Wissa, who hasn't kicked a ball in the Premier League since May.
Yeah, is he the key?
Could be.
Possibly. But that's no slight on Voldemort. I think he's done very, very well. He's a different type of striker. They just need to find ways to get him involved.
Yes. And on that note, we'll have a word from our sponsors, and we may be kicked out by the time we return, but maybe not. So here's a word from our two sponsors. Comply IT Limited. Worrying about disposing of your old IT equipment? Don't be. Comply IT handle everything. Secure collection, detailed tracking, and certified data destruction. That's Comply IT Limited. Four Rivers Financial Planning offer holistic financial advice for all stages of life, ensuring your plan remains robust and adaptable in the ever-changing world we live in. So those were our two sponsors. Links in the description below. You can also check out the Geordie Journos shop for any merchandise, which we don't wear enough in our videos.
I've got a Geordie Journos hoodie right around the house.
That's
I
good.
don't think I'll be welcomed in a press conference.
No, probably
Tad unprofessional.
Yeah, well,
based on our highly professional standards.
I think you should wear it in Brussels on Tuesday's press conference. Eddie, this question is brought to you by the Geordie Journos. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, which you should do. It's all silly, but it's a suitable subject to switch to, because we will be travelling to Brussels on Tuesday for Newcastle's pre-match press conference, as well as the game, of course.
Yeah.
But we'll be speaking to Eddie Howe on Tuesday, and we're just about to be off. 3 minutes, more time than I thought. Thank you. I shouldn't have been cheeky there, I nearly got kicked out.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Keep going.
We'll wrap up there. We'll be back in... I say back in action with
in Belgium, even though I've not been to Belgium.
So Champions League game, big Champions League game for Newcastle United. We'll be joined by Liam. We'll be reflecting on Eddie Howe's press conference, Newcastle's training session at Anderlecht's ground, Lotto Park, Union's ground, not suitable for Champions League or European football, which shows sort of the level of opposition Newcastle are up against. It's their first time in the Champions League, but hey, got a good win against PSV in their opening game.
Yep, and then PSG is a team that Newcastle play as well.
Those are the two games you absolutely have to win.
They have to get a win in midweek. Simple as that. And have to go and win next Sunday as well. So it's a very, very big week coming up. Usually when Newcastle have got doubters next to the name, they do usually fight back. So hopefully we'll see that this week.
The pressure is on. But whenever the pressure's on, Newcastle tend to deliver.
So as well. Fingers crossed.
So, yes, the next time you'll see us, we will be in Belgium. So, see you there. Thanks for watching, and please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe for all your latest Geordie Journos content.